Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show with me, Kavita Thapliyal. Electric vehicles are the new rage these days. Now, world over, the automobile industry is witnessing a shift from IC vehicles to electric vehicles for a greener tomorrow. Now, if you are someone who's looking to buy an electric car in the near future, you've come to the right place. Today on The Money Show, we will discuss whether you should be buying an electric vehicle and the factors that you must keep in mind. So, let's welcome on board Arun Malhotra, auto industry expert and former MD, Nissan India, and let's take this discussion forward. Arun, good evening. Welcome to the show. First question, have you booked an electric vehicle for yourself?
No, I've not booked an electric vehicle for myself.
All right. You're waiting for the right time, is it?
Well, as far as electric vehicles are concerned, I would just say it's a new dawn, but it's quite a misty dawn. So there's a lot of action happening. But the last 1 year, if you go by numbers, electric vehicles just contributed 1.5% of the passenger vehicle market. But you're seeing a lot of traction and a lot of action happening in the last 5-6 months. But it's still very early days. And the way I look at it, you have AV vehicles now. A lot of companies have come in with products, although very cautious steps. So it will be horses for courses. So you have to decide what is your profile, what is your usage, why do you need it, and then decide electric vehicles.
So Arun, let's dissect all of these aspects and parameters that you just listed out. But then in another news, EV registration in Delhi crosses 1 lakh mark. How do you look at this?
So, 1 lakh, Kavita, one point in this is, out of this 1 lakh, a large proportion is the auto rickshaw EV, which is a replacement for cycle rickshaws. And then there's a large component of also two-wheelers. So if you're looking at passenger vehicles, this figure will not be even 10% of that. So that's a caveat I would like you to take.
So what is happening with passenger vehicles, and why no registration or demand over there?
There is demand. See, the government, in its wisdom, is giving a lot of support to two-wheelers and three-wheelers. The FAME policy, which is there, which gives substantial benefit, and also state governments are giving for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And as far as four-wheelers passenger vehicles concerned, the big subsidy is only given if you use it for commercial applications or taxi applications. And passenger vehicles, the taxi segment is hardly about 5 to 7% of the market. So that's the challenge. So the benefit which you accrue to two-wheeler and three-wheeler buyers in percentage terms don't accrue to passenger vehicles buyers. That's one thing which you must keep in mind.
What's the offering that's being made to Indian consumers or Indian car buyers?
So the offering, fortunately, if you look at the last 6-8 months, now we've got offerings across the price band. We've got two companies already having vehicles below 10 lakhs because all the vehicles just 6 months back were above 12 lakhs. So 70% of the four-wheeler market was below 12 lakhs. So you have now Tiago from Tata Motors and MG Comet from MG Motors below 10 lakhs. Although they're very different vehicles, chalk and cheese. MG Motor Vehicles is more in terms of attitude, style, less space, but a lot of zip in it. Whereas that other vehicle from Tata Motors is more in terms of the first-time buyer. But as you move up, I think the big action in the vehicle which is happening in the luxury car market is slightly at higher price point. And you have vehicles, Tata Nexon, which is the most popular vehicle at 16 to 18 lakhs, depending on the range which you want. But there is a lot of action happening in the luxury brands. Volvo, Hyundai have introduced products at 46 lakhs. Mercedes and BMW have got vehicles from 80 lakhs to 1.5 crores. Some of them are CKDs, some of them CBU. So the big action which is happening in EV is slightly at a higher price point. It's not happening at the sweet spot where 70 or 75% of the market is there.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that really expected, because we are talking about a new trend? We are trying to set up a new trend and a new culture entirely in this sector. So higher price point at this particular level or at this stage is quite understandable. But as a viewer, as a consumer, if I want to understand, should this be the time to wait and just see how the entire sector and this particular domain rolls out in the future? Because we do have challenges. We talk about high taxes, we talk about price conscious consumers. Okay, On the other end, Arun, we've discussed this a lot of times, okay? There is a huge demand of new type of cars, especially SUVs. We've discussed it so many times. People don't mind paying better or paying more for better version and cars with better features. But when it comes to EV, why do they become price conscious?
So, there are 2 points to it. One is in EV, there are two challenges which are in people's mind, especially in terms of people who are first-time buyers, which is about the range anxiety and the reach. The range, how much kilometers that vehicle will run, and the reach and the availability of charging infrastructure. Because people at higher price point, they use it as a second vehicle, they can install the charging infrastructure at their homes. So that's one challenge. The government is gearing up the charging infrastructure, but if you look at public charging infrastructure, still there are only 4,000 in the country. We want to do something like 50,000. That is one point. The second point, I think, which is very important and which you mentioned, was that customers are ready to pay a higher price. We must remember that you have to build in aspiration and pride of ownership. Somehow at that price point, the aspiration and pride of ownership which should happen is not happening. If that happens, customers are ready to pay the higher price. So these vehicles have to be more stylish, more feature-led, and should not be the same design, whereas an EV engine is fitted inside a conventional vehicle. That's the challenge which is there. But having said that, there is a lot of improvement happening in the last 4 months. But one segment which is really growing, which is not a personal buyer, is the fleet segment, which you are seeing a lot of action happening now. You see the blue smart taxis everywhere in Delhi. That's an action area which is different, where government also subsidizes. So these are early days, but it'll take time.
So why these challenges, and especially, Arun, the logistics challenges that we are talking about, the infra challenges are not there for the commercial segment and are there for the passenger segment?
So in a commercial segment run on a specific dedicated route. Just to take an example, if Blue Smart has 3,500 taxis, they have 5-6 fixed charging locations, which are fast charging locations. So they run on a predetermined route, predetermined charging point. But when you have a person buying a vehicle, and especially if he has to go out of the city, first of all, he doesn't know the charging infrastructure exists. And some experience have been highlighted by the media, press and television, that people have gone to charging infrastructures and they found it is not operative or there is a long waiting for it. So somehow you need some sort of visibility. We talk so much of apps. Are the charging infrastructure available? Are they working? What will be my waiting time at those locations? So this range anxiety which arises is an important point. So one is increasing charging infrastructure, and other is more transparency. So if this arises, and which has started happening because private sector companies, government companies, PSUs are now investing in infrastructures, but they need to get into one umbrella so as to build up that confidence in the mass market that I can drive my EV everywhere, whether in the city or whether in highways, and we can get charging at strategic points.
So, Arun, if I want to understand the perspective of an international automaker, what are they betting on? What are they betting on as far as India's EV story is concerned?
So their bet is clearly, one is the luxury car market, clearly because they have building products which are technologically savvy, that customer will move to EV. So that is one they are betting on. Second, they feel that EV prices with economies of scale moving up, and also clearly when the infrastructure gears up and this fear of range and reach goes down, there'll be a major shift. Like there's an inflection point which has happened in two-wheelers or three-wheelers. So they expect this inflection point to happen in 2-3 years. And plus, government is giving a lot of focus on production-linked incentive, advanced cell chemistry. So these things bode well for the future. Because please remember, India is still the third largest passenger four-wheel market. And if the penetration is 1.5%, and the moment it goes to more than 10%, then it sets up a virtuous cycle. So they are looking at plans not for today, but 2-3 years down the line. That's clearly. And one Indian maker, Tata Motors, has really invested in a big way. They corner 70% of the market share because they believe that the story is around the corner. But other companies are also catching up.
So now I want to understand the infra challenges when it comes to charging station, and also when we talk about literacy, isn't it important and crucial for the government and even for the auto car makers to help consumers understand the use, the right way of use actually for an EV, and also challenge at a policy level, which I think is a bigger question?
So, one of the challenges when the FAME policy came of the government about 3-4 years back, there was a lot of focus to be done on educating, enlightening customers about the EV, the benefits of EV, the ease of using EV, and certain misapprehensions or myths they have in their mind to remove it. Somehow we haven't had an orchestrated campaign from the industry and government to educate customers. That is one clear area. Second is, there are various forces acting. Today, I cannot get a single app where I know all the charging locations which are available. Every company has its own charging infrastructure. Some PSUs are there, some private companies, that I get that level of confidence. The 4 R's important: the right price, the range, the reach, and reassurance. That reassurance and confidence needs to be built up, especially in the mass marketing. Because people at the higher end, they will experiment. They have their cars. So this, I think, requires a focused effort from the government and the industry combined. Somehow, it's not been a symphony. It's been more a cacophony, if I may say so, in a stronger word term.
All right, last question, and then we'll wrap up this discussion. So right now, the viewers that are watching you and were thinking to buy an EV, what would you like to tell them? And if not an EV, what will be your recommendation or the space that they can go and invest or buy?
So if you are still driving within the city limits or the NCR limits or the city of Bombay or this thing, then you must go for EV, because the pleasure of driving, the ease of driving is something unique to EV. You have to just experience it. And if you're not going on long distances outside the city, EV is for you. And the way the prices are, even if you use it 1,000 kilometers a month, which is the average driving, the payback will come in 3 months. And there is technology improvement happening. So clearly, that segment which is sitting on the fence needs to move there clearly. And the second is that to the manufacturers, how can we get a sweet point of 7, 8, 6 lakhs where we can get EV there and where we can start the transition and the movement. And third, government in its wisdom is focusing only on commercial application, which hardly contributes 5%. Just to give it a momentum and impetus, if the FAME benefit, which is available for personal vehicles in two-wheelers, if it can be passed to some small measure in electric vehicles, the momentum could start and a virtuous cycle could start.
All right, Arun, that will be all. Thank you so much for being on the show and helping our viewers and guiding them for this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on and it's time for a quick break. But then post that, let's talk about top 5 mid-cap funds and the reason why they're performing well. And also, we will answer all your portfolio queries with Gautam Kalia after this break.